everybody, it's Amy from the SIBO Diaries. Today I really want to kind of broach a topic that's very near and dear to my heart, and that is how to break through food fears and how to start reintroducing foods. I know from my own personal experience that it can be very, very daunting to add foods back in that maybe you haven't eaten in months or even years. It can be a slow process, but usually it's a really rewarding process to add things back in. You don't want to be on a super restrictive diet that you can't maintain for long periods of time. First, because it's so stressful and the stress is not conducive to healing. And second off, being too restrictive and really taking this really starve the bacteria approach isn't going to be helpful for SIBO in the long run. It's going to impact your large intestine. It's going to make you more sensitive to a plethora of foods. So kind of, doing a restrictive diet for a short period of time, but having a plan to reintroduce foods is really important. So let's just go ahead and dive into some of the tips that I have for breaking through food fears and, reintroducing foods. I think first, just start out by writing a list of foods that you didn't really remember reacting to, but you eliminated sort of based on like an arbitrary list. So kind of a foods that you think that you'll react well to, and also write down a list of foods that you're excited to add back in. My second tip is really just when you're adding new things to your diet, try to do it at a time when you're not stressed out. And really, you don't want to be stressed out anytime you're eating, but sometimes, something might have happened that day. Maybe there's you had a fight with your partner or something. These stressors come up. But I would say stick to something you know that you respond well to during times of stress and go from there. Maybe try, the new food that you were going to try that day, a different day when you're a little bit less stressed. Number 3 is to find ways to get you into a relaxed state before a meal. So you can use a number of different strategies for this. You can use breathing exercises. You can use prayer, saying grace at the table. And grace doesn't necessarily have to be a religious thing. You can give gratitude to the new foods that you're eating, and that can be, in private in your own head. I'm so grateful for the asparagus that I'm finally able to eat after 6 months of avoiding it. It's really just getting into a state where, you're accepting of that new food and you're excited to try it and you're relaxed. My 4th tip is something that I recommend to clients when they're trying to incorporate more foods, and that is to look up the health benefits of some of the foods that you're adding, especially if they're really healthy foods. It can just sort of help you break out of the mindset of these foods are on the no-no list and they're gonna cause issues for me. Instead, this shifts your mindset into, oh, look at all the actual benefits from these foods, versus, focusing so much on it being a food that's on some arbitrary list that doesn't mean anything. So, when you're reincorporating these foods, it can really just help you accept that these foods have a lot of benefits for your body, and it can help you from a mindset point of view add foods in. My 5th tip is just eat with people whenever possible. It's much easier to get sucked into your mindset of food fears and wondering if you're going to react to a food if you're eating alone than when you're distracted by, a really meaningful conversation with a family member, or you're laughing with friends at a meal. So it can be really beneficial to, invite friends over for a meal, or maybe meet someone out at a place that you can tolerate, have family meals. All those things can be really helpful for you to add in more foods. So tip number 6, it's really just to be okay with a little bit of discomfort when you're adding foods back in. your body's gonna need to adjust and maybe even start upregulating some enzymes, and it's just gonna need some time to adjust to more foods. So again, taking it low and slow and not pushing too hard is important. But if you're adding a small bit of something that you haven't eaten in 6 months, you might have a little bit of discomfort, you know, that you have to work through to get over that hump. And I think there's a fine line, because I never want someone to be in pain, and if it was causing, you know, excruciating pain, then I stop by all means what you're doing. Usually when people add in, you know, new foods, they're gonna have just a transition period where, you know, they might have a little bit of increased bloating or maybe a little change in bowel function, but as long as it's pretty mild, then I think that you're okay. So I wouldn't get super alarmed by, you know, some mild discomfort. All right, friends, that wraps up this little video sesh. Please leave comments. I would love to answer your questions about food fears, and would love to even hear about ways that you are breaking through food fears and adding in new foods. So see you next time.